Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's live episode of Jab Cross Hook. A little bit of a different format this week. Myself and Reed are going to do a two-person draft right at the top of the show. And then we're going to talk about some UFC news. We're going to talk about this weekend's big Bellator card. But I don't want to pass up the opportunity to brag about winning last draft. So I finally
bury the lead.
I'm not. I can't bury the lead. I finally won a draft. I swept my picks 3-0 for plus 2.27 units. How about that?
Very nice.
Amy did hit the big Aljamain Sterling underdog at plus 345, but then her other two picks lost. But she still finished profitable 1 and 2 for plus 1.45 units. Reed, you went 0-2-1 kind of, because one of your picks didn't even happen. I don't even know what happened.
Someone for not fighting this weekend, doing me a favor.
Was someone hurt, or was it a weight cut issue? Or
I think Friday afternoon they canceled it. I think he may have been sick, non-COVID related. But yeah, did go 0-2 on the other two fights. So, hey, that's how it goes. I feel like, you obviously bet like the whole card and stuff. Do you ever feel like when you lose your first bet of the card, like whether it's on the prelims or something, you just get like the worst feeling going into like the whole thing? You're like, oh, this might get like, it's almost like you need to hit that first one to like, all right, I got some confidence now. Like, this is going to go my way. Obviously, they're all completely irrelevant. They're all independent outcomes. But, like, I feel like if I lose my first one, I just go, I might as well just not even watch. There's no way I'm doing it. I did terrible this past weekend because I lost my first one. I might as well just blame it on that.
Yeah, I do feel that. I mean, generally not very open about this. I'm not good at betting UFC in general. So if I get off to a slow, like I need to like win my first few fights, then build up a cushion where I know I'm probably going to lose my last few, and then I'll just wash away and
exactly. You got to start hot. I feel like it's tough
to
like, lose my back. Like if you start 0-3, you're not scratching back to even. It's probably you're ending up closer to 0-6 than 3-3.
That's correct. We got to get in this draft quick before Amy comes on. But Reed, we do. It's a weekly thing now. What are you drinking?
Okay, I got Big Wave Golden Ale. It was, again, found in my fridge. I believe either Max or Jack, one of my two roommates, had it this weekend. They liked it clearly. There's only one left from the 6-pack, so.
Did you ask them if you could take it, or you just jacked it?
No, open season in the fridge. It's very good, though. Very good.
Right, remind me to never be roommates with you.
A Kona Brewing Company special, Big Wave Golden Ale. Very good beer. And what are you drinking? We're doing our vodka soda.
I'm going fancy night. Little red wine.
Wow, a celebration vino out there.
That's right. Victory week, I will be drinking red wine.
And Amy has joined in.
And Amy is joining us.
Oh, I'm on.
They tossed her right in. Hello, Amy. Reporting live from the Bellator Media Day.
Hi, guys. I was not prepared for that. I'm glad I was like picking my nose or something.
How was the Bellator Media Day? I guess we'll talk about that right at the top.
Let me see if I can show you guys. So there's people still congregating in there. Let me see if I can show you get a little bit of insight here.
And is Media Day over, or is this still going on?
Media Day is over. That's the setup there. Just finished with AJ McKee was up last. He had his legs up on the desk the whole time. It was pretty awesome.
So when we reference you as our boots on the ground, and this week you are literally our boots on the ground. You were there in person for Bellator's card.
Yes.
Any big takeaways for Media Day?
Yeah, but I think I want to wait till we talk about Bellator. I'm gonna save all that secrets.
So we haven't done the draft yet. Do you want to tackle Bellator first, and then we'll just do the draft afterwards?
Why don't I draft with you guys? I'm just gonna go off gut feelings, though. Are you guys okay with that?
That works even better then.
Okay,
I was about to say it's probably better that way.
Sometimes gut feelings are better over research, anyways. Sometimes I'll research a pick for 30 minutes and then it loses by 1 million. So
awesome.
Yeah, just ask me last week. I'm 1-5 on UFC 273, and I sit all day looking at this stuff. So maybe I should try like the going in blind for the drafts.
Yeah, like don't think too hard.
Yeah, exactly. But so Ian, you are finally the winner, so you get to choose the draft order, my dear friend.
What Ian won by how many points?
So the final was I went 3-0 plus 2.27. Amy, you were 1-2 plus 1.45. So about 0.8 of a unit, 0.78 of a unit. So not by much. Obviously, and we mentioned this before they brought you on, you hit the big Aljamain Sterling pick. Myself and Reed hand up. We were wrong about that. That was a fantastic call and a big underdog. But then the 2 losses brought the units down a little bit. So still a very profitable week out of 3 picks being plus 1.45. But I edged you out a little bit. And then, of course, Reed went 0-2. So
I guess that's fair. If you got all 3 right, you do deserve to win. I guess.
I was nervous. The night that it happened, I did think that I lost, but I had a couple of drinks that night, and I forgot to take off the units for the losses. But yes, so I am celebrating here with my red wine, Amy. My victory week red wine. I assume you don't have anything to drink this time since you're there live. So we're kind of winging this right now this week. Do we want to talk UFC this past weekend's UFC and Bellator
Is it too
first?
loud for you guys? Should I move back?
No, you're great.
No, you're good.
Because people are.
Do you want to do draft first, or do you want to do draft after Bellator and a little UFC recap?
Whatever's easiest for you guys. I come on the fly. You guys are in charge.
All right, since you're there, I mean, let's talk Bellator.
Sweet.
All right, big card this weekend. Obviously, it is Bellator. 277. That's right. Amy, you were there. I believe you were just talking to AJ McKee. I believe you said he is in the main event against Patricio Pitbull Freire. I'm sure I mispronounced his last name. I said earlier today I have 2.5 mispronunciations of names every single stream, and I hit the over almost every single time. What was AJ seeing? What are his thoughts? Obviously, he's 18-0. He, in my opinion, might be the single best fighter in the world that doesn't fight inside the UFC. He would be among one of the top contenders, if not a champion inside the UFC. What were his thoughts? This is a rematch, by the way, as well.
Yeah. So their first fight, I think. AJ was definitely the underdog in their first fight, but I think that a lot of fans really were thinking he was going to take it. And I think that just the odds makers were looking at records and that sort of thing. Because, Patricio is one of the greatest of all time for Bellator. And I think he is also one of the best fighters that's not signed to the UFC. I think this time around, the bettors are more on AJ's side, and it makes a lot of sense. AJ seemed really calm. Like I said, he had his feet up. He was relaxed. He did mention that there's some contract drama going on right now. So I'm not sure what that is about exactly. Wouldn't really detail that. And he did mention also that he has been putting off some shoulder surgery, and that he was kind of, this fight, it took a while for this fight to happen, and he wasn't fighting in the meantime. And he said, people are noticing me over here in the corner. He said that if he had known it was going to take so long to get this fight, he probably would have gotten that surgery. So that's interesting as well. So he's got maybe something going on there, because remember I said that Aljamain had that surgery now going in after that surgery. So I don't know. We'll see.
Pitbull, by the way, one of 10 MMA fighters with the nickname Pitbull. Also, great talent. He has wins over Michael Chandler, Manuel Sanchez, Henry Corrales, who's been one of my favorite Bellator fighters throughout the years. Juan Archuleta. There we go. I've already hit 2 names that I've mispronounced. Can Pitbull win, do you think, Amy? Do you think he can even the series at 1-1?
Absolutely he can. I think that people are just going, oh, well, you saw what happened in the first fight. And yeah, of course. I think it's going to be a lot harder. I think that the odds makers are right this time putting AJ as the favorite. But, Pitbull is dangerous. He is a dangerous, dangerous fighter. And I think that he's going to make those adjustments, and it's going to be a different fight. I don't know who's going to necessarily come out the winner this time, but it's definitely going to look different. It's not going to be an in and out for AJ, I don't think.
Yeah, and obviously AJ entering as the champion, undefeated. And you mentioned that he might have some contract disputes, lingering surgery. Is there talks of him maybe leaving Bellator? Maybe is there a jump to the UFC possible after this fight? If he is to retain it, of course. But is there anything like that you think on the horizon? You're there. You just had media day. Anything like that on being talked about?
I think we were all shocked when he didn't go right to the UFC. So
okay.
I don't know if there was even really talk with the UFC. I don't really know what his contract looks like, but I think there was definitely some surprise that he didn't go right there. So him going to the UFC would not be shocking at all.
Because there's, coming from featherweight, he's still so young. There is an opportunity with Volkanovski coming off a win to maybe, do you think he would have to work his way up the ranks, or is AJ, obviously pending victory, a big enough draw to maybe jump straight up to the UFC, get a number one contender shot and get Volkanovski? Or you see this more of like a long play for him? Maybe that's why he's not in a rush to get there.
I think that it would be much like they did with Michael Chandler recently, where they put him kind of near the top. Definitely give him somebody that if he beat, it was his way of proving that he deserved to be up there. But it wasn't a title shot. It wasn't a contender shot. But it was definitely high up there, and it was showing him the respect that he deserved. I think that's the same way they go with AJ. I think that if AJ sticks with Bellator, it'll be a money thing. I don't know that the UFC is going to want to give him the money that Bellator probably is paying him. So that would be interesting to see if AJ decides that money is more important to him than saying I'm in the UFC.
100%.
That's always the big thing between Bellator and UFC. But for anyone who's a UFC fan but not a Bellator or hasn't watched very many Bellator cards, these guys are at the Eddie Alvarez was a Bellator guy, and he went on to be the UFC lightweight champion. Michael Chandler, right at the top of the lightweight division. So make no mistake about it, these guys are very good. Co-main event is also an interesting fight, though, if you two are ready to move on to that, because it is the finals of the light heavyweight Grand Prix. Speaking of UFC, UFC fans will recognize this name. Corey Anderson is fighting the defending champion Vadim Nemkov in the finals of the light heavyweight Grand Prix. Amy, did you get a chance to talk to either of those two fighters? Any initial thoughts on that fight at all?
Yeah, both of them came. This is the one I think is, for me, is the hardest to pick because, Vadim is a killer too. I mean, he's got this hold on pretty much anyone he fights. It seems like he's just so good, but he has this thing where like the casual fans don't really know who he is. And it's so shocking to me because he's such a great fighter. And so I think this fight is getting a little bit less play than it should be. Obviously, Corey Anderson is on the other half, and fans do know who Corey Anderson is. And Corey Anderson is coming in, and he seems like he has a bone to pick a little bit with like the fighting game in general. He talked a lot about how differently he's being treated in a good way here at Bellator and how he was treated poorly in UFC. And so I think he's really trying to like right his career, like maybe get to places he didn't feel like he could get in the UFC. He mentioned that in the UFC, someone he wouldn't say who pulled him into his office and said, look, you deserve the title shot, but we can't give it to you because you're not exciting enough. You don't have enough followers on Instagram. You don't bring in enough people. And so he was really hurt by that because he thought, if I'd earned it, why don't I get it?
Yeah.
And so he's saying that here in Bellator, he's earned it. He showed that he's earned it. So he does have a little bit of bone to pick, and I think he wants to prove things to people. So I think it's going to be a really close fight.
That always is a tricky part about mixed martial arts, is that love it or hate it, it kind of is the fact, especially inside the UFC, that it's more than just about your skill level. I mean, you see guys who get title shots that don't necessarily deserve them, but they are marketable, quote unquote. Vadim Nemkov, I was looking at his record. Very impressive record. Only 2 losses in his career. One was a split decision back in 2016, and the other one was a loss to a current UFC title challenger. And I'm going to hit the over on 2.5 mispronounced names, Yuri Prochazka. But most people just go by Yuri.
You did it close. You did it? Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was good enough for me.
I think.
But one of his only 2 losses of his career, and the other one was against. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the other guy's last name.
I want to
hear
it.
Split decision lost. Carl Albrechtsen. It's tough when there's a T.
I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it on paper.
Albrechtsen. So I mean, obviously a very capable fighter. I keep saying it because I really want people to understand that these top tier Bellator guys are not a tier below UFC. Any of these title holders, challengers, Vadim has already he beat Phil Davis twice, who's a former UFC fighter, and he beat Ryan Bader by TKO. And I think that was for him to win the light heavyweight belt. So Vadim's very capable, and obviously Corey Anderson is too. He didn't leave the UFC, like you mentioned. He didn't leave the UFC because he had a ton of losses in a row. He left the UFC because it was a better move for his career, and by his account, is making more money. So that's a very intriguing fight. Amy, if you had to pick a winner in that fight, who would you go with?
Corey Anderson. That was the first name that came out of my mouth.
Getting underdog also. Smaller underdog than the Pitbull fight. It's a much closer line, but Corey is the underdog in this fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, like I said, I think he just wants it more. I think that's going to be the key. You'd have to think too that Vadim has Fedor in his corner, which is like extra little bit of like power. And also I think about like when you're a fighter and you're looking across the cage and you're not fighting Fedor, but you're seeing Fedor right there behind the guy you're fighting. Like that's got to be really intimidating and scary, because even him in a room is scary.
Yeah, he's one of the most intimidating people of all time. Fellow Russian as well, so makes sense that he's in his corner. I personally looked at a couple other Bellator fights on the main card that kind of intrigued me a little bit. Linton Vassell against Timothy Johnson. Linton Vassell is a guy who I've always watched. Another one of those guys that could have been in the UFC at any point in his career. Never made the jump. 3-fight win streak. And his losses, though, before that 3-fight win streak have come against some of the better guys in the division. And he's going up against Timothy Johnson, who, if you like mustache guys, I don't know if he still has it. Last time I saw Timothy Johnson, big mustache on the guy. It looks like one of those old 1930s boxers. So Reed, I know that you bet based on mustaches. So
I don't know. Can I bet on him again? Vince Pichel coming up short for me last week. I don't know. We might have to take a break, skip the one mustache, and get back in the next time around. Yeah, I think it's mustaches.
Yeah, I like Linton Vassell, I think it's Vassell. I like him. Yeah, I like him in that fight quite a bit as well. Timothy, I mean, all respect to Fedor, but Fedor is not a young guy anymore, and Timothy Johnson just lost to him in the first round last year. And his last win was a split decision against Czech Congo as well. So that fight stood out to me. And the other one, Aaron Pico, he was a massive prospect. I think he was an Olympic silver medalist in wrestling. He got off to a rocky start in Bellator. He lost 2 in a row. But since then, I think he's won 5 or 6 straight. He's a massive favorite against a guy named Adi Edwards, I believe.
Adley.
So Aaron Pico. What's that?
Adley.
Adley. Yes, and I think this is his first Bellator fight, but I wanted to bring it back because Aaron Pico is such a prospect to watch. I was a little bit worried when he lost those 2 fights back to back, but like I said, since then he's won 5 straight. So that's a young prospect, Olympic medalist that you definitely want to keep an eye on in the Bellator card this weekend, which is going to be very good. Is that Saturday night as well, or are they doing it Friday night? Friday night, Bellator 277. It's going to be exciting. Just the card might be even better, could be better. Some people is better, saying that it is better than the UFC card on Saturday night. So tune in for that. Amy, do you have any final thoughts about Bellator? Anything else that you got from Media Day today?
Yeah, we were just talking about Aaron Pico's opponent. He fought 13. He'll have fought 13 days ago.
Oh,
so he's fresh off of a fight, and so that is definitely something you got to take into account when you're thinking of a guy who's hasn't had a camp at all. But I see these short notice fights, and sometimes a lot of times that those guys come in fresh. They have this fresh perspective on their brain. Their bodies aren't worn from a long training camp, although this guy did just fight, so kind of is. But I think that's interesting. A guy coming in and he's fought 13 days ago.
Yeah,
that is the interesting balance. Is it because is he warmed up because he just fought a couple weeks ago? Is he now loose and that was almost like a warm up fight for him, or could he be quietly nursing injuries that he suffered in that fight? That's always kind of the balance between guys who just kind of fought back to back. So interesting note. I did not know that. He has his work cut out for him against Aaron Pico.
Yeah, definitely. Aaron Pico is a scary dude. Very talented dude. And he has a horse named Canelo.
What's that?
He has a horse named Canelo.
He has a horse named Canelo.
Yeah, which I just thought that was something I learned today. I thought that was really cool.
Reed, any final thoughts for Bellator?
No, listen, I'm not the biggest Bellator follower, but the 2 main event and co-main, that is, that's UFC level competition right there, and I think that we're in for a show. on Friday. So I think that, I think it's good for MMA as a whole to have Bellator putting up big pay-per-view cards, especially when you're looking at, the UFC. I think it's a little bit of a lull this weekend.
Yeah, this is definitely the bigger of the two cards, for sure. There's definitely a lot more on the line, too. There's a lot more,
Titles
fights
on the line.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally $1 million on the line. There's, potentially a trilogy that could be on the line. A rematch that could become a trilogy. There's just a lot of storylines here. People could be fighting for title next after these fights. It's a big deal.
Patricio has a brother in Bellator as well. Is it Patricky?
Patricky, like Patrick with a Y at the end.
Patricky and Patricio.
Oh, I have one more thing I want to mention. It was
Perfect.
so cute. It was so cute. I wish I'd time to upload the video. Patricio brought his little son. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. And somebody asked about how he had done some push-ups online somewhere at some point. And the little boy wanted to show us. So he got right there down and did push-ups for us. And Patricio had to pull him to stop him. He just kept going. And they were really good push-ups.
Good form on the push-ups.
Really, really cute. Yeah.
Future champion, maybe.
Yeah, seriously.
That's one thing we haven't seen in MMA because it's such a young sport. Is the kids of former fighters coming up and being fighters. Maybe we'll see that at some point.
AJ McKee. AJ McKee is the son of Antonio McKee.
That's before my time.
That must be even before my time.
But he was in the UFC.
There we go. So topical. There's someone right there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing is Patricky in Patricio's corner this weekend as well? I'm assuming.
Yes. I assume, yeah. He's here, so I assume. So,
he's here, yeah, so he's got to be.
All
right, interesting.
Patricio was the double champion. He held the title in featherweight and lightweight. When he lost the featherweight title, a lot of people went, oh, well, that's okay because he still has the lightweight title. Well, once that happened, he said, I am stepping aside. Let's vacate this lightweight title. So now he has no champion of nothing. And that allowed his brother to then fight for the title, and his brother won. And I thought that was a really cool storyline because cool. Imagine if his brother had lost, because he was giving it up so his brother could be champion, but
right,
he didn't know for sure he was going to be champion. So that's showing how much trust and heart that he has to give that to his brother like that.
Beautiful stuff. I love it. Let's transition to UFC here. If anything else comes up to your mind that you forgot about that came from Bellator Media Day, chime in. We can always go back to that. But I do want to I'm going to start off with what your two opinions were of the Chimaev and Gilbert Burns fight this past weekend. Amy, you ended up drafting Gilbert Burns, but I think all three of us were in agreement that the odds weren't set right at all, that Gilbert Burns could have won that fight. A lot of people think that he did. Amy, I'll start with you. Did you think it was the right decision, or did you think Gilbert won that fight?
I think it was the right decision. I think it was definitely very, very close, and I think that it was probably fight of the year so far.
Yes,
it's definitely on my list.
100%.
It was one of those fights where they both kind of won, not the fight, but won fans. They won. They proved something, that there was the benefit to that fight for both of them. I think it's interesting that, Gilbert wants the rematch. I think he deserves it. I think what he said about it, he said, I gave him the chance. Now he should give me the chance. I would love to see a rematch. I'd love to see that 5 rounds. I think if it had gone 5 rounds, I think Gilbert would have won.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat for more reasons than just that I wanted to win the draft. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Reed.
No, I know, Ian, we had the chance to talk, but I haven't spoken to Amy, but Amy hit on the head. That was fight of the year for sure. I mean, that was all-out war, and, I think it just showed that there's still room to grow for Chimaev. I thought he did rightfully win, but that doesn't mean the odds were correct. I thought that Burns had a fair chance of that fight. He had Chimaev wobbled a few times. I just think ultimately Chimaev wins rounds 1 and 3, so he gets the nod. But it's not like Burns. I know his record will show loss, but I think he gains a ton of respect. I think Dana, I even saw a picture of him and Dana talking after the fight. Clearly there's a agreement here. I stood up and took this guy and I went toe to toe with him. So I think Burns kind of comes out a winner on this one. And we said
he got his win bonus too. Dana gave him his win bonus. So.
Yeah, he earned it. It was without a doubt fight of the year. I think I'm going to be hard pressed to see a better fight than that. So, what I was most impressed was you just saw the size difference between the two guys. I mean, Chimaev is a monster. He's massive for welterweight, and Burns, fairly undersized at the weight class, but still, he was game to that fight, and it was awesome. All 15 minutes are awesome.
Yeah, we all won.
Yeah, we're all winners here.
Yeah, and definitely both of their stocks went up. I agree with that, Amy, for sure. Even though Gilbert technically lost, both their stocks went up, both in fans. And having a fight like that is big in Dana's eyes, I think. That kind of gains the favor of the UFC for the rest of your career. The other one that was maybe a little bit more of a controversial decision was the co-main event, obviously. Aljamain Sterling won. Amy, you did call it. Very close fight, though. A lot of people did think Jan should have got the decision. I guess it came down to the first round because Aljamain clearly won rounds 2 and 3, and there was even an argument he could have got a 10-8 in round 2, and then Jan clearly won rounds 4 and 5. So did you agree with that decision? Amy, obviously you had Aljamain, but do you think is the right decision on the judges' scorecards?
I do, and I've talked at length about this all week to everyone I can because I just have in my brain, I have a theory or like a reasoning why I believe that Aljamain won. I think you're right. First round was obviously the one that was in question. I need to go back and watch it again. At the time, I was thinking Aljamain had won the first round. I believe he should have gotten a 10-8 in the second round, but I'm okay with him not. But it's hard for me to say that a winner of a fight wasn't the one that was in danger of losing. Because anytime I was watching that fight, I was going, oh my God, it's going to end. It was never because of something Peter was doing. It was because of what Aljamain was doing. So it would be really hard for me to say that Peter won that fight. And I love Peter. I love both those fighters. It was really hard for me to watch that fight because I really wanted them both to win. But I think it was right. I think Aljamain won.
Reed?
Yeah, I was pulling for Jan, but ultimately, I think Amy kind of summed it up pretty well that he didn't do enough to win the fight. Even if I thought he did win round 1, it wasn't a decisive victory. Aljamain had the more, I guess I'm going to repeat myself, but the decisive moments of the fight were controlled by Sterling. Like if you look back at the last fight, Jan, he clearly was the far superior fighter. I'm not saying Sterling is better than Jan or vice versa. I'm just saying in those 25 minutes, Sterling was the better fighter, and Jan fought Sterling's fight. Losing that round I thought was very decisive. That round 2 was really bad. So, pulling for Jan, I can't argue with the decision though. He fought a losing fight.
Do you guys want to see a third one though? Because I don't want to see a third one.
Not yet. The UFC is on this trend where they do like rematches and trilogies like really quick. Like let it breathe a little bit. Maybe if the two guys go on and win the next couple of fights and it makes sense down the road, because then you have time to kind of rebuild it up. Have things changed the past couple of years? No, I don't want to see a third one.
So what? Sterling Dillashaw and then Jan versus I don't even know.
I would love to see him with Merab. I know I said that with Matt Frivola. Like I think that there's such a good storyline there. I don't know that that's necessarily the next fight for Jan, but I think that's got to be. I think he needs to get through Merab to get a title shot to Aljamain, and it's more just about like the story. And you can see that is what Merab is angling for. He's posting all kinds of pictures of Jan on his Instagram like as a child with like his head all shrunken and stuff. So like that's definitely there's a story there, and I think that could be a really fun trash talk session between the two of them.
I forgot about Aldo also still in the mix at bantam. I mean, do you go because Jan obviously beat Aldo? Do you give Aldo a title shot? Dillashaw, Jan, winner gets Sterling again? Is that kind of how you do it?
I think he already announced like TJ is going to be next in line, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
did I miss that?
But he did say that, but he changes his mind all the time.
That's true.
But yeah, I think it's going to be TJ. I wouldn't be upset if it was Aldo. Either one of those guys is a good option. I think TJ makes sense just because he was the former champion, that kind of thing. But and I guess Aldo
kind of puts Jan in a bit of purgatory though, because he could kind of only go down, and I feel like you could dominate on like a Rob Font. I think Rob Font's a really good fighter, but you kind of put yourself in harm's way of like how far can I go. I imagine Jan would be a big favorite over Rob Font, but I feel like it puts you in like how do you get back up the ladder? You know, you're kind of stuck in the middle there.
And I think that's why the fight with Merab makes sense. Why I think that Peter might be enticed to take it, because there is actual hatred between the two of them. So for him, it would be like, I just want to beat this guy's ass. I don't care about the fact that he is lower than me, because if I beat him, that's like me shoving it in Aljo's face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's actually bad blood between that group there. So
that makes sense.
I'd scored the fight a draw, to be honest. I did think Jan won the first round, but then I thought Aljamain got a 10-8 in the second round. But I will say, even though I scored the first round for Jan, it wasn't like when the decision was read, like I wasn't like upset or was like, oh, that was a terrible decision. Like it was a close round. Like it could have gone either way. Like I'm fine with the decision. I'm very happy for Aljamain because I think him coming from winning via disqualification and the fans just attacking him for it, like the past year or however long it's been, for him to then mentally recoup, knowing even though he won the fight, he was getting beat up by Jan, for him to mentally recoup, get confidence, figure out how to beat Jan, and then go in and do it. It's hand up. I was wrong about Aljamain Sterling. Like,
so was I.
That was an impressive performance.
Yeah, he earned the win.
He did look way better than he looked in the first fight. So, I don't think in the first fight he was at his best. And shout out Ray Longo as well. Now 3 champions in the UFC that he's coached, and all 3 have been significant underdogs heading into the title fight that they won. Matt Serra, Chris Weidman. Matt Serra obviously against GSP, one of the greatest upsets of all time. Chris Weidman against Anderson Silva, one of the greatest upsets of all time. And then Aljamain Sterling against Piotr Jan, one of the bigger upsets of title fight history. So Ray Longo is a hell of a coach, no doubt about that. Shout out Long Island. All right, let's are we ready to get in the draft here?
Do we want to talk about the last fight, the main event? Do we want to talk about?
Yes, I know. So you're right. We got to talk about.
I know that there's not that much to say. There's not that much to say because Volkanovski just put the hurt on Korean Zombie, but
my heart breaks for Korean Zombie.
Yeah, I mean,
think he should retire because that's what it sounded like he was thinking about. He was considering that.
He got taken to school.
He's
clearly as good as ever. I mean, that was woo.
He's not a title contender guy. I mean, these guys who are fan favorites, I wish just at the end of their career, the UFC would just start giving them fun fights. Guys who are like close to their level. Like give him like a Cub Swanson. Like one of those guys. Like let's not give Korean Zombie the top 2-3 guys in the weight class because his career is just not at that level anymore, and it's unfortunate. But I mean, I'm not going to say whether or not he should or should. I think he still has gas in the tank, just not against the top guys. So, but if he retires, hey, it was a hell of a career.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to retire, but I mean that was a beatdown, and it should have been stopped probably. And they called it pretty quickly in that 4th round. But
and Volkanovski in that 4th round at the start, he like stopped. He was like, "Dude, are you good?"
Yeah, I mean,
which I thought was a nice move by him.
Yeah,
but Volkanovski, he continues to impress. Every fight it seems like he's getting better and better. I guess it's Holloway. I know he's kind of flirted with. I want to start looking at other weight classes. I feel like he has to beat Holloway one more time, and then he can move on to another weight class. Though, what do we think about that? They were supposed to fight again. So I feel like Holloway kind of earns. I know he lost twice to him, but I still feel like. Those fights were very competitive.
I mean, I wouldn't be on
since
Holloway.
What was that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's fought twice. He has 2 wins. So yeah, I'd be down to see.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 2 fights were so close.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like I know Holloway's 0 for 2 against him, but I feel like Volkanovski before he starts looking at like other weight classes and stuff, him and Holloway got to settle it one more time because they were supposed to fight again. So I feel like Holloway deserved that one.
Then we'd also be in danger of the getting into Brandon Moreno and Devison Figueiredo territory.
Yeah, where they're just
Holloway wins. Then what? Do you give Volkanovski an immediate rematch?
The treadmill of them playing or fighting each other.
Speaking of retirements, though, we should probably mention at least that Marlon Moraes retired today.
I didn't
see that.
I did see that right before we went on. I should have mentioned that before.
Which I think was probably the right move. I think he'll be a great coach, and I'm excited to kind of see where he goes from there. But he had a great career.
He had a great career. I would have liked to see him in the UFC a little bit earlier because back when he was in the WSOF, he was dominant back then. And he went on to run the UFC, just kind of fell up a little bit short. And then he's one of those guys that he kind of lost his chin a little bit. I mean, that sounds a little rude, but it kind of is true. Like he got knocked out once, and then he got knocked out a ton of times after that. But yeah, certainly one of the better fighters in that weight class of all time, I would say.
Yeah, it feels like he just missed like really contending, right? Like he had his chance, got knocked out, and just seemed like it really spiraled. But like I kind of feel like he got out at the right time, you know? Like I feel like he knew he lost it, and that was kind of it. He didn't like try and force it. Which, you know, sometimes guys don't, you know, we're talking about Korean Zombie retiring. Some guys don't know when to get out at the right time, and it ends up getting really ugly out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, goodbye.
Yeah, and then like 5 years down the road, we get like Chuck Liddell against Tito Ortiz, and that fight that happened a couple years ago that did not need to happen.
I was there for that, by the way, in person, and it was so bad.
Sad more than anything.
It was a mess. The whole entire card. They had a guy come on and propose to his wife after he lost. I mean, propose, but the thing was, he was already married to her. So because I knew them personally, I was like, they're already married.
Was that like a bit?
I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like maybe like she pissed him off. He pissed her off, and it was like, I'm gonna like make a gesture. It was so weird. The whole card was just weird.
The whole card was weird. That was a one-time card by that. I don't remember. It was wasn't it Oscar De La Hoya that ran it?
Yeah. I also remember, this is a funny tidbit. Afterwards, they did the press conference in the arena. And so they brought out Tito, and they told us, they're like, oh, just turn around. Like we were in our media tables facing the cage. So they're like, just turn around. So the cage is behind you, and then we'll have the media, like the post-fight press conference right there. But then they started breaking down the cage. So it was like, you know, like electric drills and people like slamming the, and we're like, what is happening? It was so bad. There was all this trash everywhere. It was just a mess. So that was a fun night. Great content.
I remember watching that card. That was so strange.
Yeah.
All right, let's get through the draft. Just us three, no guests this time. Like we mentioned at the top, not the best UFC card in the world. So I know, Amy, you're at Bellator, so you aren't as prepared, but you can kind of give us some gut picks, and maybe that will. Sometimes gut picks are the way to go. So UFC, what is it? UFC Vegas 51. Or it's UFC on ESPN like 32 or something.
I never
a million names for all these cards.
Yeah, I keep track of the UFC Vegas and then whatever number it is. It's whatever I keep track of whatever the hashtag is. Basically, that's what I go by.
Right.
Nobody hashtags the UFC on Fox or UFC on ESPN crap.
Main event's pretty good. Obviously, I'm sure we'll draft from it. But Vicente Luque against Belal Muhammad, a rematch. 6-7 years in the making. But we're not going to dive into that right now because I'm sure someone's going to draft it. So I, as your defending champion, get to choose the order. I will go first, and then Reed, and then Amy. I'll put Amy last, and then it'll give her a couple extra minutes to kind of decide who she wants to go with here. So I guess if I'm going first, I'm ready. I haven't told the producers who I'm picking. But let's. I'm gonna make this harder on YouTube. Actually, we got to go prelim for first round like we normally do, or not? Yeah.
No, let's just do.
We haven't discussed. Let's just do the whole card because, to be honest, some main card fights are kind of prelims, anyways. To be completely honest.
Yeah, and I don't know who's on what card.
Right. Everything's on the table.
Everything's on the table, and I'm going to take the obvious pick first to make it a little bit tougher on you two. That's why I wanted to go first overall. Vicente Luque minus 175 against Belal Muhammad. I'm sorry for our producers that I did not let you know ahead of time, but it is going to be Vicente Luque. It is a rematch. Vicente Luque won the first time via first-round knockout. To be fair, as much as that was a first-round knockout and an impressive performance by Luque, I'm not basing this bet on that fight alone because I don't think a first-round knockout really gives you a whole lot of signs or indication of how the matchup actually is between the two fighters. Obviously, every time that you are going to bet or pick a Belal Muhammad fight, you have to look at wrestling because that's what he does. That's how he wins fights. But Luque has a 64% takedown defense rate. pretty good. And if he can keep it standing, there's no doubt about who has the advantage on the feet. So I will go Vicente Luque in the main event, -175 against Belal Muhammad. Muhammad does average 2.2 takedowns per fight, but only a 33% takedown rate. So he doesn't complete a lot of the takedowns. Only 1/3 of his takedowns he completes them, and Luque is pretty good at defending them. So I think he can keep it on the feet. I think Luque wins.
Yeah.
It's -180. All right.
I'm going to be on Luque in some sort of fashion. I think he punches so like just the striking is incredible. I think he messes up Muhammad, honestly. I think he knocks him out. I do
like Belal Muhammad, though.
So do I, but I think Luque is he's quickly approaching contender status at welterweight. I just think he's a cut above Muhammad. I think Muhammad, that Wonder Boy victory, I think is being a little overrated. I think Luque is just a far superior athlete at this point. So I like Luque. I like your pick.
Okay.
All right. Amy might pick Muhammad at some point in this draft. I feel like possibly. Reed, go ahead. You're second.
Yeah, I wrote this fight up on FanSided earlier this week. It is actually on the prelim card, the featured prelim. I'm going to take William Knight +145. He should be +140, +145 against Devin Clark. This fight's going to be at heavyweight, which is interesting to me because Knight missed his last weight. He took a short notice fight, missed weight by 12 pounds at light heavyweight, which he immediately apologized and said, listen, I didn't mean to do this. I couldn't get there. I took the fight on short notice, all that. Great. But now he's fighting at heavyweight, which is clearly a better weight class for him. And Clark's coming all the way up to face him. I just think that this is Clark, he sometimes fights at middleweight. I think that this is a huge step up in class for him, weight wise. Knight pushed a good gas tank. I like him a lot as an underdog here. I think he could grapple, get this against the cage. So, yeah, I think that this weight jump is going to suit him better now that he gets a full camp.
Yeah, that 12 pounds was crazy.
It was a UFC record for being embarrassing in terms of how, and he immediately said after, he's like, yeah, I couldn't cut it. I just wasn't prepared, whatever. So now they're tossing him a bone, I guess. I don't know why, but they are. And listen, we got to take advantage.
I agree with that, Dave. I have no other further comment on that fight. I read your write-up at FanSided. Anyone who's watching, check that out. I agree with what you said.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I won't be picking against you on that one. Amy, back-to-back picks. Gut feeling. Hit us with them. I know we're putting you on the spot a little bit. So,
yeah,
I won't expect big breakdowns of these fights.
Yeah, I think my first pick's not surprising considering how I reacted to your first pick. I'm going to go with Belal. I think Belal is consistently underrated in every fight he's ever done. I think that he's just I don't know, it's all hard. Again, I'm picking, I've been in the gym with Belal a few times when I was out at Rufus Sport. I think he has a good work ethic. I think he's really smart fighter. He's obviously on the desk, so he talks about fighting. I think he's got that edge, and I think he's being underlooked. So I'm going Belal. I won't ever bet against Belal.
He is one of those guys that are he's not the flashiest fighter in the world, but he's grit, he's heart, he knows how to win fights, he's smart. So even though I'm on the other side, it's definitely not a pick I hate. And also, by the way, I was wrong about Sterling last week, and you were right. So I'm not going to argue against you too much. So
I'm just going to record that and put on loop.
I was
wrong, and you were right.
I have another theory. These are another one of my betting theories. I think the fighters that also mimic, that are on the commentary team as well, that do the both in their off time, it actually works against them. And I think that they become worse fighters after commentating. I don't have any science to back it up, but it's a working theory here where, you see your Anthony Smiths went on a skid, Angela Hill, Paul Felder, Dominic Cruz, all these fighters, they've kind of struggled since going to the booth. I'm just saying, Belal trying this whole commentary thing, it might end up sending him to the commentary booth for permanent, in the long term.
I definitely see that. I could see them being distracted.
I'm not crazy, right? Like, I know I'm crazy, but I'm not totally crazy.
Not at all, because I could see that they'd be distracted. They might not have as much time to train. They're going to have to be spending time researching. They're going to be overthinking. So I definitely see reasons why that theory would make sense. So I'm excited to see what I'll prove you wrong.
Completely.
I mean, people do say with MMA and UFC, it's either you're all the way in or all the way out. So if you're starting to do commentary, that's kind of like half a foot out. So I think there is something to that, but
I'll get in the lab.
It's not a foolproof theory in the sense that people who are do commentating jobs still win fights. It's not like they're like completely winless.
Yeah, no, of course.
I think there is something to that.
Yeah.
Amy, I'll give you a minute here to come up with another pick because it is back to you. But we will bring up the round 1 recap graphic here while you're coming up with your next pick. Only favorite. You know what? My strategy of leaning more towards favorites has actually worked in my favor. Vicente Luque minus 180. William Knight plus 145 for Reed. And then Amy on the other side of the main event, Bilal Muhammad plus 150, which is by far and away the main event. So, sometimes there's a card where the main event isn't the people's main event, some might call it, but I would say the main event is also the people's main event on this card. So we covered that in the first round. Amy, are you ready with your second pick?
Yeah. Okay, so I almost went with this guy for my first one, so I guess it's cool. Rafa Garcia. I think I've been following his career since he was in Combate. I think he, he's one of those guys, again, that like people kind of underestimate. He's not super known by fans. I think he'll, like, it's a heart. I haven't had a chance to look at anybody's records at this point. So this is all just heart. I'd put my money on Rafa. Looks like he's a favorite too, right?
I believe it's a pick'em. Yeah, it's a pick'em. So a true coin toss there. But yeah, Amy, like I said, we put you on the spot with the draft today, so we're not going to hold you to big breakdowns. But he's 1-2 inside the UFC, but he is coming off a win against Natan Levy.
And oh my gosh, Natan is one of my absolute favorites. I was really shocked by that performance. So that's another reason why you reminded me. Rafa's keeps proving himself.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I love it. Won't argue against that. Reed, second round pick. Back to you.
Yeah, back. I didn't realize he was going to be back so fast, but I bet on Andre Valaho. I believe I said that right. I don't know if I took him in the draft that we did, but he fought on a pay-per-view card against Michel Pereira, and Valaho was like a plus 450 underdog and looked very, very good, in my opinion. He's at plus 150 against Miguel Baeza. Baeza, I've watched him a few times, puts himself in a lot of trouble, and Valaho punches incredibly hard, nearly knocked out Pereira in his last fight, who, in my opinion, is a real step up from Baeza. So I like Valaho. What?
No, go ahead, finish.
Why? Because are you taking Baeza?
Finish your pick, dude. Finish your pick, and then I'm going to rip it apart here soon in a couple minutes. Go ahead. Finish
well, Baeza puts himself in harm's way. I think Valaho could find the finish. Baeza nearly got knocked out by old man Matt Brown a few years ago when I first really got into betting UFC. So give me Valaho. I think he can find a knockout punch. Go, rip me.
Right.
You win one UFC draft and you think you're all that all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I just finished my victory one.
Now this draft gets personal. I'm watching the full. I'm gonna put. I think he's Portuguese. I'm gonna hold a Portuguese flag up and everything.
It would. Yeah, he is Portuguese. It wouldn't be a draft read. I feel like we're against each other on one pick. Well, I mean, both my picks now. I'm like one against Amy, one against you. I just like to be the contrarian. So put it up, Miguel Baeza. Once again, I think I've hit about 5 last names that I've probably mispronounced. But I mean, to be honest, Reed, when I was looking at this and doing my research, I was going to pick Andre, but I watched film on him. Not impressed, to be honest. He has power, that's for sure. Most of his wins have come via knockout, but he's stiff. There's no fluidity to his striking, and that's kind of proven if you look at the stats. Now, he was obviously kind of thrown to the wolves on short notice against Michel Pereira, but in that fight he had a strike accuracy rate of just 33%. He has power, but there's no fluidity to his striking. And in that fight, he absorbed 7.13 significant strikes per minute. That's not good. Tough to win a fight when you're getting punched significantly 7 times in a single minute. And I actually think Miguel might actually submit him. He had 5 submission attempts in his last fight, and his last win was via submission as well. And I haven't seen, at least when I was watching tape, I haven't seen Andre grapple too much. It's certainly not a specialty, though. He is a power striker. So I am going to go Baeza minus 175. Going head-to-head. Both my picks are head-to-head with you two, which completes round 2. We have one round to go, but we will bring up the recap graphic here. I'm sticking to my strategy. Favorites, minus 180, both of my picks. Reed, plus 145, and you're sticking with the underdogs. Fialo, plus 150. Amy, Bilal Muhammad, first round, and then you just took Garcia as a pick'em, minus 110 coin flip fight there. So 2 rounds down, 1 round to go. My final pick, since the snake draft here, Jordan Leavitt, plus 105 against Trey Ogden in this fight. I think this is going to be a submission battle, so I am going a slight underdog here. Ogden's making his UFC debut. 11 of his 15 wins are by submission. Jordan Leavitt, 2-1 in the UFC. 6 of his 9 wins have come via submission, so I think it's going to be a grappling battle, but 2 big reasons why I'm betting on Leavitt. 0 submission losses. Ogden has 3 submission losses on his record, and also you kind of have to factor in octagon jitters. Usually I'm a stats guy, but I truly think 2 guys making their UFC debut, guys and girls making their UFC debut, a little bit of octagon jitters possibly. So I will take the slight underdog in that one.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit perturbed because I was going to pick him as well, literally only because he has a book review YouTube channel where he reviews books, and I'm a big book person.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm just like, that's cool.
I like
Is it Leavitt?
Leavitt, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know like his upside. I kind of like Leavitt in this fight. I agree. A few times back, I believe it was his debut, he fought some just like washed up fighter, and he literally like picked him up and threw him down and knocked the guy out. So I've always kind of
he does have a knockout by slam.
Yeah, it was some guy who was on his way out, and he just completely, like in a minute, it was insane. So I've always been a fan of Jordan Leavitt ever since. he took him out of the UFC, literally. I like the pick there, especially as a small underdog.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Reed, back to you. Final pick of the draft.
Back to me. So we're talking about pronouncing names. This is a fun one. Give me Godzi Omar Godziev. Yeah, small favorite.
I think you did pretty well with that.
I think so too.
It came out confident. I feel like that's what really got it home there. But 2 debutantes going on the co-main, a little strange, but I'm gonna start with the Russian. I think he has much more power. I watched him on the Contender Series, absolutely ruined this guy's knee, screaming in pain submission, but he also has 8 knockouts to his name, so I'm gonna trust him against Baralho. I just think I just have a gut feeling here. I like Omaradzev. I think he's a slight favorite. I'm going to follow the money here and not overreact to anything. He has 8 knockouts, like I said, 11 wins. I think he kind of avoids any of Baralho's power and gets probably a submission victory as well. I think he gets us to the ground. And it kind of gives me a little favorite. Try and mix it up a little bit.
I like it. I have no opinions about that fight, so I agree.
I just
love it
when
Amy.
you call them debutantes, I pictured them coming out in like big lace dresses, like with
for a very violent sport, I like to dumb it down as much as possible.
All right, Amy, you got the last pick of the draft.
Sam Hughes. She's another one I've followed from LFA. I think she's, if I remember correctly, I think she lost her debut. I think this is her 2nd fight in the UFC. But I think that when you lose your debut like that, you get the experience, you get the the jitters of it being your debut out of the way, and they tend to be pretty successful in that 2nd fight. So that's kind of what I'm betting on here. And I think she's got it what she needs to make it. So,
and she
has
Estela
taken Nunez is pretty good. Estela Nunez, not related to Amanda Nunez.
Oh, that's right. Yep, I definitely looked at her last time that she fought and asked whether or not she was a
everybody
Amanda Nunes.
Part of the family.
Her fight name. Her fight name should be Estella, not related to Amanda Nunes.
That should be
Yeah.
Like now fighting, not Amanda Nunes.
Yeah. All right, so that completes the draft. Let's recap all the picks here in a moment once the graphic is ready. Oh, it's ready. Look at that. Look how quick they are. I went Vicente Luque, Beza, and Levitt, minus 180, minus 180, and plus 110. Like I said, my strategy recently of picking, leaning more towards favorites and underdogs has worked for me. Reed, William Knight, plus 145, Andre Fiallo, plus 150, and Omar Gadzhiev, minus 140, went favorite there in the final round. Amy with 2 underdogs and a pick'em, Bilal Muhammad plus 150 in the first round. Garcia minus 110 as a pick'em in the second round. And then Sam Hughes plus 175. The biggest underdog of the draft, plus 175 there in the third round.
A lot of close lines in this card. I don't really see a lot, wide favorites. Not really. I think I don't know if there's any underdogs in this card, which probably means plus 350 dogs cashing left and right this weekend.
I have a question. You guys said the biggest. Wait, what'd you call it? The biggest underdog. There's 2 that are plus. Well, one's plus 415 and one's plus 315. Wouldn't those be bigger underdogs?
Biggest underdog of the draft of the fighters.
Of the draft. I was gonna say, I'm like, wait, because I'm like, I think
you're getting there. That was good. Keep us on.
You're right. There are bigger underdogs in the actual card itself, but of the people that we drafted, Sam Hughes was the biggest underdog.
Got it.
All right, big Bellator card Friday night, UFC card Saturday night. A lot of fight action for some fans and bettors out there. Any final thoughts? I think we're good for basically kind of winging this show with Amy being on the ground there. I think we did a pretty good job there.
Yeah. Covered everything.
I'm excited. I'm curious to see next week if you guys can tell us which card ended up being better.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
I like that. That's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Yes.
To
be honest, I don't know if I'll be able to watch either. Friends are visiting from back home to New York City, but maybe we'll be at a sports bar and be able to watch them both.
Well, I'll just tell you the answer then.
All right. I will trust you, Amy, to be fair with that.
And I will be at both. I'm going to be flying home super early so I can get to the UFC. So I am going to both.
The commitment.
That's right.
Where's the Bellator card right now?
San Jose. So it's not super far. It's 45-minute flight.
Not super far, but still the commitment to get to both. Very impressive. So there you go. This week's Jab Cross Hook. Thank you all for joining us. Best luck with your bets. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the video, all that good stuff. Good luck to your bets. We'll talk to you all next week. See ya.